not only dealing with the pain and those meds, but then having to deal with depression. There was a lot of depression there. And when I tell you that I advise anybody, when you're dealing with depression, go see somebody, you know, because
Real talk. Real talk. Hey everyone, it's me, Regina Hassan, your host for the Pregnant with Purpose podcast. Welcome to another great episode. Now, for this season, season 4, I've been talking about overcoming, and I've been talking about dealing with my glaucoma. Talking about some of the challenges I've had. And as I said before, God has made it known to me that there are people out there who are overcoming obstacles and challenges, who have been called to live out their purpose or his purpose for their lives. And I like talking to those people since I see myself as one of those people. What he has let me know in no uncertain terms is that once you are called by God, that is not contingent on anything but him in your relationship with him. So it's not contingent on whether or not I'm in perfect physical health. Is not contingent on my education background, my financial status, none of that. So he has let me know that, and I am enjoying talking to other people who are overcomers or who are overcoming. So just to give a little bit more about what I've been going through, one of the things that I have talked about is that I no longer drive because of the anxiety. Driving became too much of a risk for me. However, in my lack of not driving or not being able to drive anymore, God has made it known to me that there's never a time that I can't get where I need to go. And that's like the beauty side of when there's something for you to overcome, you realize that God is truly using it to make you stronger. Also, let me just say this about my glasses. The light from the camera lights that they have, they really affect my vision. So that's why I'm wearing sunglasses. It's not because I think I'm a star, even though, but I wear those so I won't be doing the whole. I won't be doing the whole podcast in a squinting position. So anyway, that's that. I have like I said, a great show for you today. We're living in a world that there are a lot of people who are feeling hopeless. We have wars and rumors of wars, and we have pandemics and epidemics and environmental tragedies, and it's just a lot going on today. So there are people who are feeling somewhat hopeless. And what today I want to talk about, as well as overcoming, is the fact that God is still in the miracle business. I have a couple that I want you all to meet, Clarence and Deborah Estes. They are friends of mine, as well as we attend the same church. But Clarence has a story, Clarence and Deborah, they have a story that is phenomenal. And I just like to offer it up today to let you all know that God is still in the miracle business. He's still in the miracle. So, Clarence, if you don't mind, could you take us back to January 16th, 2015?
well, I'll tell you a little bit about it. Glad that you invite us over to do this, okay? Deborah will go through the majority of that day because at this point, I still can't remember a lot about that day.
Okay.
Um, but I had a project that I was working on that day and going up on the roof and taking down the Christmas lights. This was a little bit mid-January. And I'd been up and down on the ladder several times. And at some point, I came loose from the ladder and ended up on the concrete driveway.
So you're talking about high. We're talking about a
second story of the house.
Okay. Second story house.
Yeah,
Okay. So you're up there and somehow or another, you fall
that's right.
off the ladder onto the concrete below.
Right. I landed in the driveway. on my head. Deborah was in the house, and she'll get into the details of
Okay.
that.
Okay.
I was very fortunate and blessed that my neighbor across the street, he was out in the yard as well, and he heard the ladder when it hit the driveway.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if there was a yell or not,
Okay.
but I was in the driveway for some time before the ambulance and the constable and the crowd got there, and probably 2 weeks later, I woke up in the hospital.
Okay.
So I let Deborah kind of fill
Okay
you
then.
in on
Okay.
that. Yeah.
So Deborah, you're in the house.
Yes.
Okay. So did you see him fall? Did you?
I did not see him fall. I heard the noise.
Okay then. Okay. So
And,
pick it up from there.
Okay. Our bedroom is above the garage.
Okay.
And from what I could tell, Clarence had gotten down all the lights except the second story lights. And I was sitting on the bed doing my Bible study.
Uh-huh.
And he had just passed the window. And my head went back down into my study. And then all of a sudden, I heard this ladder fall, but I didn't hear him scream. And so I'm trying to think, did he fall? If he would have fallen down, I would have heard him scream, but I didn't hear a scream. Mm-hmm. So I decided, well, let me run down here just to make sure. And when I opened the front door, he was unconscious, laying out on the cement driveway. My neighbor was standing over him. And by this time, I mean, there was blood everywhere. And my neighbor said, go back in and call 911. And I did. They got there pretty quickly in about 7 minutes. Mm-hmm. And they prepped him as if he had broken his neck.
Okay.
And because he came down head first on the cement. And we made it to the emergency room. We were all in triage. And the nurse came in and said, Miss Estes, unfold your hands. They did a body scan. And he said, you have a broken and smashed left arm. You have 5 fractured ribs. Wow. And you have brain bleeds. So, he hadn't started swelling. And, it's just amazing to me how God protected his mind, because he was laying there as if he was in no pain and all this, was going on. So, of course, the neurologist said that, his brain was swollen. His head was huge. And they were going to watch him for 72 hours. And if the swelling and the bleeding didn't stop after the 72nd hour, they would have to go in and do surgery. So Clarence's sister, we are all believers, and his sister took over at that point because I was in La La Land, trying to figure out what's going to happen next. Mm-hmm. We all gathered hands, and she prayed. And then at that point, they put him in ICU. He was in ICU for about a week, almost 2 weeks. And after then, he got out of the hospital. And then I kind of left the 72nd hour.
Right.
At the 72nd hour, his head stopped swelling. Wow. And the bleeding stopped. Wow. So they did not have to go in and do surgery on his brain. And of course, a week or so later, then we had to take care of his arm.
So in the 72 hours, was Clarence conscious? I mean, did you go and talk to him? Did y'all have any?
Yes, I stayed. Well, I didn't leave the hospital. I stayed there. Clarence was conscious, but he didn't have a clue. He was.
But he knew who you were.
He knew who I was.
Okay.
He knew who his sister was, and our son was there. And
one of the boys, yeah.
the oldest son, he knew Clarence knew our oldest son, recognized him, but he didn't have any idea what had just happened.
He didn't know what had happened.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. So go
He
on.
didn't
Finish.
remember
I'm sorry.
any of that.
So the 72nd hour, the brain stopped bleeding. There's no swelling. It's
No swelling.
Okay, then
and
go ahead.
stopped.
After that.
Yes. So he was under observation, I think, for an additional 3 or 4 days.
Mhm.
And then we were released from the hospital.
So he was only in the hospital for how long?
It was a little over a week, maybe 8 or 9 days.
And he
in the
was released from the
hospital.
hospital.
He was released from the hospital. They didn't do surgery on his arm because of all the, by then it was swollen. And they couldn't do anything until the swelling stopped here. And then I guess we're going in the second, maybe the third week. They reconstructed his left arm and his wrist. And, then he was in a cast for 6 weeks. We had to then start physical therapy, occupational therapy, and speech therapy. The neurologist advised me that with the 3 brain bleeds, that the permanent damage was irritability and problem with pronouncing words.
Okay.
Like if he got anxious, he would get tied up in his words. So he recommended that we did speech therapy and the occupational, for his arms and his hands.
For his motor skills.
For his motor skills. They didn't put him in a body cast because, unfortunately, with ribs, all you can do is wait for them to heal.
Right.
So that took place. Everything was going really well. Excuse me. By the 5th week, I thought he was progressing well enough that in about 6 weeks, he was getting ready to go back to work.
Wow.
And he woke up one morning and he said, I can't go back to work. And mind you, Clarence has been in management all of his life. Clarence was a district manager for Payless Shoe Source, which doesn't exist anymore. He had been with them over 20 years, ran over 30 stores, Southwest, East Houston, all the way down to Victoria, Texas, was his territory. And he woke up and he told me, he said, I can't do the job. So, of course, again, I'm thinking, he was the breadwinner. What are we going to do now? I had retired and I had my part-time things that I do. I'm an interior designer. And I'm thinking, what are we going to do now? Well, the blessing out of it was Payless Management worked with me, got him set up for early retirement, for disability, and got him set up for, for all of that. And everything went well, everything on time as so far as setting up the medical portion of it, the financial part of it, and his recuperation.
So Clarence, so you woke up that day. Do you remember that? Waking up and saying you're not going?
But Regina, first, let me tell you one part that she left out because it's one thing that I get a chuckle out of every time is that when my neighbor told her to go call 911, he told her, please put some clothes on also.
I came down in my gown.
So that lightens
an
it up for
emergency
me.
like that.
You're not even thinking about that.
No, I'm not thinking
You're
about it.
not thinking about that. But the nurse, by
the way, go back in
and put some
call
clothes
911 and put some clothes on.
Yeah.
Because that may add to it, that may add to it. So you remember making the decision about not being able to do your job?
Yeah.
What was behind that? I mean, how did you come up with that?
There's probably 4 key things there that contributed to that. Okay. Number 1, I was dealing with the pain. Number 2,
Tell me about the pain. Let's go back. The pain
Well,
in your arm, head, all over.
All over.
Okay.
Number one, I was dealing with a head injury.
Right.
I was dealing with my arm having been broken and surgery in that, and I jammed one of the vertebrae on my back. So some serious back pains. And so, taking a lot of pain meds,
right,
keep you in a daze a lot of time. And so that was one of the first things that I had to do as part of that recovery was, figure out ways to get off of those pain medications. And I was able to do that after a lot of different shots, the surgery, and, exercise and those electrodes throughout the body. And so I was blessed to be able to do that.
A blessing it is, because there are a lot of people who are who have suffered some type of injury, and they are now addicted to that medication. Right? Yes, exactly.
Yes, indeed. And so not only dealing with the pain and those meds, but then having to deal with depression. Because the depression from, the work that I'd done over the years, I think all but one job that I had, I'd been in management. And so not being able to do what I do, there was a lot of depression there. And when I tell you that I advise anybody, when you're dealing with depression, go see somebody. Because
real talk.
Dealing with depression, I'm basically a workaholic. I can't sit at home and do nothing. I'm not going to lay up in bed all day and do nothing. And so when I couldn't do what I've been doing for the majority of my life, that brought on a lot of depression, to where I never thought I'd be laying on someone's couch or sitting in a chair, telling someone all of my personal problems.
Right.
So that took a lot of effort right there.
But you sought therapy?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, very good.
Absolutely.
Very good.
And it paid off. And kind of helped me with looking at what direction, what do I do now? Okay, so you're dealing with pain, you're dealing with depression, you're dealing with lifestyle changes and what you can do and what you can't do. Even before the accident there, I was dealing with some semi-depression because, I was getting ready for depression. For retirement, leading up to that. And then we go through 2008 when you go through economic depression. Upheavals, yes. Where, I owned 9 rental properties up until that point where the economy went south. And all of a sudden I had to get rid of all of those.
Wow.
So you have that part of the preparation for retirement, and then go and have an accident where you can't work.
Right.
You're talking about building on depression at that point. So we have to work on that. There was a lot of prayers going up everywhere for me. I appreciate that. And just thanking God for every day of being able to get up and move. And, finding other things to do with my time and those kind of things.
Also, you had mentioned to me earlier before the show about dealing with memory loss.
Absolutely. That's definitely a big part of it. I don't go anywhere without my little black book, because my little black book and the notes on my phone and all of that absolutely get me through a day. You know, uh, when you're dealing with TBI, head injuries, and those kind of things, you can be in the middle of a sentence and totally forget what you know what you were getting ready to say. So, uh, and those are all part of the lifestyle changes, things that go on. What you do, when you do it, how you do it. Uh, all of the things that I've done throughout my life, and so uh, makes a difference.
I like what you said too, because I think that's very important about going to therapy. And as a believer, it's okay to go to therapy. Some people frown on that as believers because they feel like, well, where's your faith in God? But I can have faith in believing that God will hook me up with a therapist that would be able to help me. I'm a believer in that. Also, what you pointed out, is having to live a new lifestyle. And I always look at it like this, Mr. Esther, because I feel like that this is what's going on with me, is that God is setting us up for something else down the line. And, what our plans, well, I'm going to do this and I'm going to retire and go fishing or whatever, and God had a much bigger and a much better plan.
Yes.
And, I'm not saying it absolutely took falling off of a roof and landing on your head. However, it didn't come to a surprise to God,
Right.
and I always say it's just in the scheme of things, it's no surprise to God that I have glaucoma, and, he's allowed me to go through this, but in this, he's shown me some other things that even though my vision may be limited, physically limited, but spiritually, I'm getting a better insight on things. I feel like I'm getting a better insight on things.
That's right.
So both of you are, even with what happened, Mr. Estes, even with what you went through, both of you are very, very, I know, very, very busy people and active people, especially at the church. Mr. Estes, are you still a delegate for our
I stepped down
region?
as a delegate last year.
So you're finished saying a delegate, so people will understand what I'm.
United Methodist Conference. Part of the voting delegates of getting things approved and all of those kind of things.
And you're a delegate, and I know you do a whole lot at the church, Mr. Estes, and I know Deborah. It's easier to talk about what you don't do at the church, what ministry you're not a part of. So I know both of y'all are very, very active in the ministry, and I think that y'all are the perfect people to talk about being able to overcome certain things, certain obstacles, and still do what God has called you to do. Seek first His kingdom. That's right. So the idea that the financial thing worked out. And prior to that, we were thinking, prior to that, sometimes you're thinking, oh, wow, I need this job, boy, I got to have this. This is something I have. And then it takes something like this to show you, well, if you got God, you got everything that you need. You're not going to go without, not going to go hungry,
Right.
But I think that it's awesome the way he shows us things. And even though our plans, we feel like are good plans, they're not necessarily the best plans for us.
Right.
And he always has our best in mind.
Yeah, and doing a lot of volunteering in organizations, be it the church, other organizations outside of the church, working with the uh, United Methodist Conference, those kind of things. It helps keep the body active, so that the mind is active, the muscles are active, And as long as we're not feeling sorry for, well, I'll put it in personal. As long as I'm not feeling sorry for myself,
Mm-hmm.
I can see things that I can do. And maybe I wasn't doing what I was doing before, but I can do something new.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly.
If I was doing, in addition to training people, training managers in all of the stores that I had, then I can do that within other organizations that I work with.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
um, if I can't do all of the moving and running that I used to do, I can at least do a lot of walking. And my little Yorkie really appreciated going for those walks two
I'll
to
go on
three
and give
times a
Kobe a
day.
shout out.
Yeah, my 5 pound 3-year-old Yorkie keeps me busy.
Good. Good.
He's what I call my road dog, literally my
Good.
road dog. Because where I go, he goes. Where he goes, I go.
And you acquired Kobe after the accident.
That's right.
So it's not it may not be necessarily that maybe you might not have even gotten Kobe.
True.
Uh
Probably would not have, because the hours that I work, I wouldn't have had time to really take care of him the way that I do now.
Yeah, see,
Yeah.
see, it. I mean, God, there's a rhyme to His reason. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's just not made clear to us at that time, but it becomes clear later on.
It was all in the plan.
Right. I mean, he's used this diagnosis that I have. He's used it to show me how loved I am. I talked about that when I did the episode regarding grief when my father died. And I said that something, I mean, I know my father's in a better place. I know all that, but, I miss my dad. But it was during that time and still today that I found out just how loved I am, just how people care and how I am cared for, and, it's an awesome thing, he can turn it into anything into good. So, anything else surrounding that, Deborah, anything else surrounding that moment that you want to add to this conversation?
Well, the only thing that I wanted to add to it is that how blessed Clarence and I have been. Clarence and I have been married. Well, we're going into year 48.
Year 48. That's 4-8. That's 4-8.
Yeah. And if you include the length of time we dated, it would actually be 50 years.
50 years.
But, since I take care of the finances in the house, for me, it was like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But Regina, I kid you not, we had the opportunity to pay our mortgage off early, and we had just done that.
Wow.
So, and then when his employer assisted me in getting they helped me get everything done.
Wow.
We did not miss a beat.
Yeah. God is good.
God is awesome.
God is good.
God
He really is.
awesome.
God is really good. And, all the resources that are made available,
Yes.
I just learned how to use the magnifier on my phone, thanks to Deborah Estes. So, I'm so glad y'all joined me today, because I really think it's really important that when there's no hope, no matter how bad a situation is or how tragic a situation is, you just never know what could come out of it. Personally, when I heard that, Mr. Estes had fallen off the ladder and fell head first, I was like thinking to myself, oh, poor Deborah, and even if you survive, Mr. Estes, I thought that you would not be of full mental capacity, and so when I saw you come to church, the first time I saw you come to church, I couldn't help but feel very overwhelmed by the fact of, look at God, look at what God is able to do. So that's why I wanted y'all on here, because y'all really do y'all really are overcomers, and y'all are doing some great things. It has not stopped you from serving God and serving in His kingdom, and I appreciate you being there. And I want to give another shout out to Kobe, who's at home crying because they are here. Kobe, they are on their way home soon. So, this is the part of the show, and I want to thank y'all for watching. But this is the part of the show you owe win, okay? And so I'm going to take this from my experience. The Estises were very nice and Sunday, and they offered to take me home. But we stopped to get something to eat. And I just want to say this. You owe when you know where the best Luby's is in town, okay? Don't nobody go to Luby's, but old church folks. That's who goes to Luby's. If there are young people there, it's because an old person brought them there, all right? So, but, they knew where all the Luby's were, because a bunch of Luby's have closed. They know where all the good ones are at. All the good Luby's are to eat. So when I was thinking about what's a good one to do, I thought about, we were all sitting there. Did y'all notice that in Luby's? It's older people. If it's a younger couple, say like they're in their 50s maybe or 40s, it's because they just left church and pastor has brought them. Okay, but you old when Luby's. When Luby's is your place to go, all right?
Yep.
Young folks don't even know what Luby's are. What's Luby's? So anyway, it's been a great show. Thank you again for watching. And don't forget, and like I like to always say, don't forget, if you're not dead, God's not done. See you. Bye.
Take care.